like slimy covered onions.
Ordered a few more accessories for the Burano, although I am striving to minimize the amount of accessories. I don't want to turn this into a big cinema studio camera rig. I'm really trying to minimize, simplify, body, battery, lens whenever possible. Solar operator. I want light, lean. I'm getting older. My shoulders are beat up. Got arthritis. So I don't want to put a cage on this thing. So I get this little shape side bracket that a viewer recommended for running audio receiver. Picked up the bright tangerine eye loop, although I've yet to use it on a shoot. P-tap splitter on top, no top plates. OC monitor, inexpensive. I think they're $130, daylight viewable. I'm just using it for framing and menus. I'm not making any exposure or color decisions off of it. I want something that can get banged around so it's not slowing me down at the expense of trying to prevent a screen from getting scratched. Next up, I bought the mid 49 EVF extensions. I went with the shortest length. I got two, one for my News Cam FX9 and then for the Burano. I didn't buy the adapter to 1/4-20 bolt down to the camera, although I may go back and pick one of those up. Prepping and packing for week 5 of 5 on the road. This is my last one and then I'm taking a break, but trying to get everything into one carry-on for airline flight into Mexico. I'm the C camera on this project, so FX3, 24-70 lens. Want to be able to do manual focus pulls. I'm not capturing any audio. This is all just B-roll, manufacturing, image work.
Butterfly drumsticks.
New client for me, production company from upstate New York. They flew into San Antonio Airport. I met them in baggage claim. We picked up a 15-passenger van and had to make a quick visit to the Alamo before a 2.5-hour drive to Acuna over the Mexican border from Texas and Coahuila. And our pass van, after about 40 minutes, the AC quit, 100 degrees, and only the 2 front windows open on that van. Next up, I got to give them a little border tour of my stomping grounds for the last 3.5 years along the Rio Grande. This is a new stretch of fence in Del Rio. It's the first time I've seen it. It was built by the state of Texas to same, I think, design constraints as the federal wall. And the bummer is all these landowners, these waterfront Texas landowners that are now on the Mexican side of the wall. Coincidentally, News Nation, the Dallas photog, is staying at the same hotel here in Del Rio. This is the truck I rode into Washington, D.C. and from San Diego to SpaceX in Brownsville. I send this photo off to the Dallas photog, Daniel, get up to my room and get this photo back. Pretty funny. It's like standard cameraman wardrobe, baseball cap, and Oakleys. Got some limited BTS on this week because, one, I am super tired. Week 5 of 5 traveling. It's like I'll fly home and have like between 1 and 3 days off, and then I've been back on the road. So coming up next 2 weeks, I've passed on several shoots. They've all been little one days, some of which involved travel, some were local. I think, 3 shoots total. We spent the night in Del Rio, and then clients picked us up in a vehicle that came over from Acuna to bring us over the river and check us in and make our declarations at the border. Client side handled all of the paperwork. I just gave them an inventory list of the equipment I was providing. So our first location is in Acuna, which is right over the border from Del Rio, Texas. And then our second location later in the week is in Saltillo. Same state of Mexico, Coahuila, but it's about a 5-hour drive from Acuna. So the debate was, do we make the drive or do we backtrack 2.5 hours to San Antonio Airport, fly into Monterrey, and then drive to Saltillo, which in no traffic, I believe it's about an hour and a half. Well, we opted to fly and there was some road construction and other issues, and that turned into a 2.5-hour drive from Monterrey to Saltillo. But all good. We had drivers provided by client side. We're able to relax. I ended up in a separate vehicle from the airport to location 2, and I must be the problem, because just like our rental van, the car that picked me up had intermittent AC. So I was sitting there on the sunny side of the vehicle just sweating for 2.5 hours. So NDA, it's manufacturing client, can't show any of the details on location, but basically my role was to cover specific processes in a B-roll type of format. Ended up, I shot everything real time, no high speed. And then I did a little bit of time lapse on the last day with a GoPro. But it was just one of these 3 cameras, 3 shooters, divide and conquer, plus some still photos shot by Billy, who's the one who brought me on, one of the partners at the production company. Thank you, Billy, for the gig. It was a blast. So I blew it. Hollyland emailed me, and they were going to send me 6 of these. They were like, we'll give them to you for free. Just do a review. And I was on the road, and I forgot to reply, and now I can't find the email. These things are like $2,000? Yeah, $400. Great. Man, I blew it. Past 4 years being based out of Texas, most of my assignments have been like this one, in that the shoot day is pretty low stress and easy going. The difficult part are the travel days and the prep and worrying about not having all of the critical gear that fits into cases you got to put in an airplane. There we go.
It's a lot of gear.
That thing is huge. Oh man, 5 weeks traveling, 3 restaurant meals per day. I have been eating so well, too well. Put on 9 pounds in 5 weeks, 1.8 pounds per week. Still getting some exercise in, not as consistent as when I'm home, but even with that, just all that wonderful rich food and overeating. I've had more steaks in the past 5 weeks than any other point in my life. Back over north side of the border for the night, hotel in Del Rio, several Florida State troopers staying at the same location. These 2 troopers are with an aerial unit, part of Operation Lone Star, on a task force from Florida, and they were comparing drones with our crew. So they've got this setup. I think it's like $50,000. It's got a 120-to-1 zoom lens, up to a 40-minute flight time, although they said in the heat and the wind they were getting like 25 minutes. It's got, I think, FLIR or some type of thermal night vision, and they're working nights somewhere halfway between Eagle Pass and Del Rio. I think, Quemado, I asked him. He said, yeah, Quemado sector, which is where most of the crossings are happening in this sector at present. Hey, Texas, take note of your neighbors. Every town we visited, there are people out constantly sweeping and cleaning up. Man, Texas is so dirty and litter-filled compared to the Mexican side. It's really shocking to see the contrast. I kind of got desensitized to it living here for a couple years. Car ride from Monterrey to Saltillo. It was about a little over 2 hours. Every time our vehicle slowed down, I'd say like 20K and less, the AC would cut out and we'd have to crack open the windows.
Really parched. You can need a beer. Gracias.
None of this is difficult, but the travel days are definitely harder than the shoot days.
Maybe I won't. No, I might.
Enjoy your
I might
time.
go on. Break.
Let's do this day, friends. We're gonna go do this.
You do?
No.
Getting exposed to manufacturing jobs in Mexico got me thinking, I wonder how many manufacturing jobs there are here in the States. So lazy Google search. about 15 million in 2023. And if we go back to 85, we had about 20 million. So I was surprised by this. I thought there was this dramatic loss in manufacturing jobs. I mean, I guess that is significant, but you see the local media here in the States, and my perspective was we have like little to no manufacturing jobs. And then, what is it in Mexico? So it's about 25% of the Mexican workforce, or about 14 million. So got roughly the same quantity of manufacturing workers, but in terms of percentage of population, Mexico is 25%, whereas the U.S. is only about 8.5%. And I thought, well, how has the population overall changed in the United States? So if we go back to 85, we had about 235 million in the States, and 20 million of those worked in manufacturing, versus today, I already forgot, was it 15 million? And we've got a population of about 341 million. Yeah, 15 million of those are workers. So interesting, unvetted Google searching. The breakdown on a 3.5-minute feature package from a few weeks ago. This aired, I believe, on CBS for the PBR. I was covering for the main feature DP, Brent Bunton, great guy, is based in Arizona. He was on I believe a multi-week assignment for the PBR in Brazil, and so he wasn't available for this one. So thanks, Brent, for not being available and giving me the opportunity to cover for you on this one. So I'm going to let this run in its entirety. I'll chapterize it, and then I'll come back and we'll run through it a second time, and I'll share some of this was a 1-day shoot, about 3.5, 4 hours drive for me. And the night before, I started feeling a little sick, like had something coming on. But producer was flying in for this. I think the coach traveled in specific, and it was too last minute for me to find a replacement. So woke up with a fever, got in the truck and made the drive up there. Ended up taking a nap in my van. I'm grateful for the air conditioning system. I think I slept for about 45 minutes, and that revived me just enough to get through this. So the interviews are, originally we had planned to shoot just a Burano, and once we got in place, I thought, it'd be great to have a second angle. So I had my FX9 with me. We set that up as a B angle. The primary close-up here is on a 50 mil Burano. Tighter profile shot is 85 FX9. We shot Cinetone color profile. I don't remember if this was UHD or 1080. And then this did go to a colorist, and the audio also went to some kind of audio sweeten specialist in it, and then the producer did the edit. So just a 2-person crew, me and the producer, lit these interviews with a Aperture F21X in daylight. This is a little metal shack on a ranch. It's got a window AC unit. It was about 100 degrees, but we had to turn it off for sound. So it got up to at least 100 in the room during the interviews. And it was very limited on background. So we had this one little desk area with the 2 windows. Camera's a little low to get under the brim of the hat. Key light is, I would say, at just about 90 degrees to the camera. That's one thing I really like about these F21s. Even though it's only a 2x2 size square, to me it feels like a much larger source, like maybe a 4x at the same distance. Traditionally, like a 4x frame I'm punching through with a direct source. I love how uniform and soft the light is from these light matte style lights. And then, gosh, I don't remember now if we had negative fill or it was just the ambience in the room allowing for the wrap. And then on the PBR circuit, they like to frame these interviews on the wrong side. This color grade's a little aggressive for my taste, just that I don't like when the skin tones start to clip, unless maybe for a fashion piece. It was all, certainly I held all the highlights when I exposed in camera, and I set the initial exposure f2.0, and then I used variable ND to get the levels right, but I set the windows to a point where they were not clipping, and I wanted the key on the face to be the same intensity or greater than the window. And then in the grade, they pushed it a little higher. I am noticing kind of just these little subtle differences between the years of shooting on Amiras versus the 9 and the Burano. The RE sensor in in-camera color science, the highlights bloom and sort of kind of defocus as they go towards clip, where the Sony has got still, well, it does it to a lesser extent, but it still, to me, just has a little bit more of this like traditional video clip feel to it. But they're very close. I'm realizing now, too, when I go back and look at previous jobs from sensor technology that's more than 10 years old. Gosh, we're coming up on, I guess, 14 years for that ALEV3 RE sensor. That this Burano stuff looks really crisp and wonderful, and you can tell it's like a generation newer. Audio for these interviews was super simple. It's a hidden Sanken Cause 11D under the shirt. Just use medical tape to affix it. Both interviews ran about 20 minutes, and then we broke for an early dinner. I think we were off for about 2 hours, and then we returned to the ranch at 7 p.m. to shoot the B-roll components. It's Texas, so it's always super windy in the afternoon. We grabbed this quick sideline interview with Samantha. Both of my lav mics were unavailable, so I switched over to the on-camera shotgun, and even though it had the windsock on there, there was a tremendous amount of wind noise. Like I was probably gusting at 15 to 20. And you can hear it a little bit in the mix here, but again, they did a phenomenal job suppressing the wind noise. Shot most of this B-roll in real time, and then there's a couple clips of JB at 60 FPS slow-mo. All of this is Burano on the shoulder. No accessories, no shoulder pad. I just had a Sockler touch-and-go plate mounted to the base of the camera, which was digging into my shoulder a little bit. All of the B-roll is also on the Sony 28 to 135 kit zoom. Variable ND. I wasn't really paying attention to aperture, but I'm probably at like a 5.6 to a 4 for all of the B-roll. This is a great little spontaneous moment between Brandon and JB. We hadn't planned for it. They were mic'd, but one take, real time, just covered it. And again, I was sick and I could have done a better job on the B-roll. Had I been 100%, I would have been moving faster and getting up in the chutes and getting down on my knees to shoot ground level through the pipe. But this little moment, I think what saved me on this, getting all this coverage in what was probably a 90-second discussion in real time, is past years of editing my own footage and other people's footage. I just kicked in here with the muscle memory and managed to get 2-shot close-ups of each and head nod reactions without stepping on a critical statement. Kind of let them banter per bit, and I'm like, oh, that'll make the edit. That's a good statement. That's funny. That's good. And then when they would trail on something, I'm like, all right, I'm going to whip over to the other one, get the laugh, get the reaction shot, get the head nod, try to get all those little pieces to tell that story without making these guys stage it and do it, a second time to get the laugh. And I had the little focus buzz here, but it's real. It feels real. It was real. So I don't know. I guess it lends to the story being buzzed. And again, this is 28 to 135, probably at a 4, the very end engaged manual focus.